What's going on, my freaks and geeks? We are the Square Roundtable Podcast. Guys, tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with one of the most prolific comic book writers of all time. Guys, please welcome Mr. Chuck Dixon.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Of course.
Here.
Yes.
Oh man, like I said before, thank you so much for coming out. It is a pleasure having you on. I was completely surprised when you responded to my email. So I was just like, whoa, really? Okay, let's do this.
That's all it took.
We greatly appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule and coming to chat with a couple of nerds. So
Yes.
Well, I'm just a nerd too, so.
All nerds here.
That's
Exactly.
a brotherhood of nerds.
A brotherhood.
A brotherhood of nerds. I love it.
Oh, that's
Exactly. So you were definitely in the right place. But yeah, I want to ask you. I asked all my guests when they come on the show just a little mental health check to see where you were at, because stuff has been crazy out here. So how have you been holding up? How's everything been going for you?
Pretty good. I was just talking to a friend of mine, and we both agreed that because of our careers, just sitting in a room making stuff up, we've pretty much been in lockdown for decades. So it hasn't had a negative effect on us.
I get it. So you're pretty much used to it. So it's just not, and it's the same with us too, because we've been going outside and stuff like that. But for the most part, I just kind of enjoy being inside a little bit. I'm just like,
Yeah.
So it's not really, I pretend to be like, oh, this is awful, but I'm really like, it's like a regular Tuesday, I'm just
right.
But that's good to hear that everything's been going all right for you, though. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Been good.
Awesome. First and foremost, I wanted to know, because of course we all know you're an amazing writer. I wanted to know first a little bit about your background. So first of all, where are you from, and what led you to a career in comic book writing professionally, and just writing in general?
I was born in Philadelphia and born and raised there. Moved to Florida about 15 years ago. I can't remember a time when I didn't read comics. Even before I could read, I read comics. You know what I mean? Looking at the pictures, trying to figure out what's going on, or having somebody read it to me. And I can't remember a time when I didn't want to be involved with it. I started drawing my own comic books when I was like 5. And it was just something I aimed at. I didn't have a plan B. I either got into comics or I was going to work at the car wash or Home Depot or something. And you're in school and the guidance counselor says, well, you should have a backup plan. I'm not interested in anything. I'm not going to be happy unless I'm doing this. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed that I got to do what I want to do. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's great. That's great stuff. But more on you being a comic book artist, because I was on your website and you said you put some of the panels that you drew when you were younger, when you said you wanted dreams of when you wanted to be a double threat rather.
Yeah.
But so what happened with that? I
found out that I couldn't draw as well as the guys I really idolized. I'd never draw as well as Steve Ditko or Joe Kubert or John Buscema. I started thinking about becoming a cartoonist, but I didn't. That's the only regret I think I have in my career is I didn't go to art school or take art classes and hone that talent so that I could write and draw my own stories. But it didn't happen. And I got so busy as a writer, I probably never would have had time to draw anyway. It's like Larry Hama's a terrific comic artist, but he doesn't have time to draw stories anymore because he's so busy writing them. So that probably would have been what happened to me.
No, I get it.
Pretty much, yeah.
No, I get it because I was looking at it and it was really great. Like it was great, and you have a really distinct style, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Vaughn Baudet when I was younger, and I kind of lifted a lot of stuff from him. I mean, he was doing the kind of stuff that I thought, hey, I can reach that level. But then I just didn't. And I've done art. I did some art for Disney on children's books and stuff like that. But mostly assisting with pencil and all the non-Disney characters. I would do them.
That's good.
I mean.
Yeah. They got people that are a lot better at that than me, but background characters and stuff like that. So I dabbled in it. But one of my boys asked me, one of my sons asked me, why don't you draw a comic now? I said, man, it's been so long. I lost all the skills. It's even hard for the guys who are great.
Yeah.
No, I definitely understand that. But even I'm just saying, I would love to have that to put on a resume, even if it was just like background characters. Like, yeah, I did some illustrations in some Disney books.
No, see what you do is you don't say what you did. You say, oh, I did some cartoons for Disney. You put it like that on your resume.
Right.
You don't say background or nothing. You say, I did some characters for Disney. I do Mickey. That was me. That was me back in the day.
A lot of people don't even know that. Todd McFarlane asked me to do a pinup for one of his Spawn comics.
See,
you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't.
You should not have said that. Chad's ready for it. He's ready.
See, and I had no idea, and I'm like the biggest. I don't care what anybody says. I'm the biggest Spawn fan ever. So that is. I'm already jealous. That's crazy. And you worked on a lot of other stuff too, like The Simpsons and SpongeBob SquarePants. Like that's insane. So like I want to know the trajectory of your career. I want you to definitely talk about when you started working on books like that. But for sure, what were the early stages of your career? Like, how did you get from wanting to write in comic books to being in DC Comics, which is like the Titan? Like, how did you get to that point?
Like a lot of guys, I started out working on fanzines in the 70s. A lot of guys back then, nobody does that now. You just put it on Facebook. But so, and some of the guys I worked with back then, I mean, John Byrne was in one of my earliest fanzines. We were in a fanzine together. We didn't know each other. Whoever was publishing the fanzine bought. They didn't buy. We did it for free. They took stuff from us, printed it.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to get attention. You'd go to conventions, and editors used to come to conventions, so you could talk to them. So I tried to develop a rapport. I tried to meet the editors whose work I liked. If they were editing books I liked, I assumed there's some rapport there. I like what they're doing, and they're doing it. So they must like something I like. And I hit it off real good with Archie Goodwin, and he allowed me a few interviews. But I was trying to get in at the worst time. I was trying to get in comics in the 70s. And they'd fired half their people. They had laid off 40% of their staff. They were canceling books. Marvel was on what they called their austerity program, which they were lowering page rates. A lot of people don't know this, but at one point, Marvel was having the artists turn their art paper sideways and draw 2 pages on each piece of paper, same size as the comic.
What?
Yep.
Wow.
And the stuff came out so horrible. The only guy who could do it was Buscema. Buscema's stuff still looked the same. Everyone else's looked awful. Because they were all the same size. And so they stopped that because readers noticed. It's like, man, why did the comics look like total crap this month? This is when I'm trying to get a job, and it's a total lockout for new guys. And I had to wait till the 80s when comics blew up again. And then they just needed talent. And I got hooked up with Eclipse to do Airboy. Thanks to Tim Truman, he recommended me. And then almost simultaneously, Larry Hama at Marvel started buying stories for me from me for the magazine, Savage Sword and Savage Tales and all that. So I got 2 simultaneous breaks, and I just never looked back. I just, kept working. And then DC, Denny O'Neil reached out for me because he liked my work on Airboy, and he thought I'd be a good fit for Robin. So that stunned me because I had met Denny a few times. I didn't think he remembered me at all. I didn't think I made any impression on him. But apparently he liked what he read.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So like you said, you just kind of didn't let go. Like, that's really cool.
No, and it took a while. I had all kinds of jobs. Like I said, I worked in children's books, but I drove an ice cream truck. I was a security guard. I was a janitor, anything to pay the rent while we're trying to break into comics.
Wow. So how long? So your first? Oh, were you about to say, Dmitri?
No, I was just saying. Wow, I was agreeing with you. Yeah, I was saying wow. Yeah. No, you can continue. Point.
Oh no, I was going to say. So your first with DC. So you automatically started writing for Robin.
Yeah, I'm like instantly in the Batman camp, which I never thought would ever. Wow. Because everybody wants to write Batman.
Of course.
Yeah, I wrote my own. I would like to say I wrote my own little Batman comic. In the 6th grade, I called it Bat Boy, and Batman adopted a little baby that he found on the streets. and he became his other son. So it was like Robin and then Batboy. Like you said, everybody wanted to write.
Everybody wants.
Hey, it was Damien.
That was my version.
Damien before Damien. All right, we're gonna say you had claim to fame. Damien before he came around. You were.
And a fun fact about it, I still have it.
Hey,
man, you keep up with. See, that's the one thing about you, man. Like you keep up with all of your old art. Like all of mine is just lost somewhere in the multiverse. Like I'm never getting it back. Like I don't know. It's just, I'm like the worst artist ever because I don't keep up. Number one, I love art and I love drawing, but I don't do it as much anymore. And then all of my old stuff, even the paintings that I love, they're like gone. I don't know where if it is.
You just throw them away, man. Shame on you. Shame on.
I don't say throw it away.
No,
I'm like bad at keeping up.
What he does is he's like, I'm ashamed of this. I'm gonna go bury this somewhere, and I'm never gonna look at it again. And then he just forgets about it. Because Chad has like one of the most, I think, the worst memory I've ever come across. He's got the worst memory. Like it's gone.
And these guys know me, so I'm sorry, Chuck. That's just how it is. I try.
And some of the art was a little questionable. Some of it was good. Not like Chad's a good artist. I'm just joking, but some stuff was a little.
You see what I got to put up with, Chuck? You see this? They just do me so wrong. but I'm going to be a pain. Like I want to ask you just your opinion. Who is your favorite?
It's tough. I grew up with Dick Grayson, but then Tim Drake helped me buy my first house, so I got to go with Tim Drake.
Hey, no problem, brother. Yeah.
Great reason. I mean, Dick Grayson never did that for me. We called my first house the house that Robin bought.
Nice. That's so cool. No, I love that answer. I definitely agree.
Yeah, because when I did that first miniseries, every time I would go up to DC, the guys from Circulation would come running out to meet me, and that's when I knew I was on to something. We're going back to print again because the first. I remember asking Denny on the first Robin miniseries while we were working on it. I said, well, "What do you think this is going to sell?" And he said, "We did a Catwoman thing, and it sold around 175,000. So we figured we're going to do around there." And we did that, and then we went back to printing again and again and again, and it was awesome. And then the second miniseries was even bigger. I'm just thankful to Denny. I'll be thankful to him to the end of my days because he just plucked me out and put me in that spot. I didn't interview. I didn't do anything. I never once, all the times it was DC, I never said the words, "I want to write Batman," because I knew everybody wants to do that. I was always, what characters doesn't anyone want to write? I'll write that. I just love comics. I want to write comics. I don't care who it is. You know, if you want a matter-eating lad comic, I'll write it. You know, so
I understand.
Like, what character don't y'all want me to write? You want to write about? Like, I'll take that guy. I need something to pay the bills. Like, what guy is it?
Yeah, man. Give me Polka Dot Man.
Right.
But then they actually made Polka Dot Man cool. He's cool.
That's
now.
What I'm saying.
So,
yeah, they changed his whole outlook. Now everybody wants to be Polka Dot Man.
Well,
he's not.
If you can take a character like that and reboot them and make them relevant and cool again, that's what I did with Firefly. He was what a lame character he was. You know, Graham Nolan and I really reworked him, and they use him all the time now.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, Fireflies.
He was stupid when it first came out. You ever see the original Fireflies? Like an F on his chest.
Oh no!
He looked like a big bug. He had like wings and he had antenna. You know, God, it was moronic.
Oh no! They went a little too hard on the Firefly aspect of him, and not too hard on his fire.
He didn't even have. His thing was he was a Hollywood special effects man, so he would do things with lighting. So it wasn't even fire. So I turned him into a Hollywood pyrotechnics guy who is a pyromaniac who has sexually attracted to fire.
So before he was like flashlight, and that was like his whole stick. It was like he flashed the flashlight in your eyes, like ha ha
ha. Yeah, basically, I got a flamethrower.
All right, I'm a real threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you wrote in the actual pyro aspect of a Firefly.
Yeah, which made DC really,
Wow.
really uncomfortable because I wrote a lot of stories where he would see women in the flames. A lot of times they took that out. Sometimes they let me go with it, but sometimes they take it out. I said, look, it's subtle. It's an Air Force joke. The kids aren't going to get it. But anybody who knows about pyromaniacs is going to get it. I mean, because if you know anything about pyromaniacs, how they catch them is they're always standing there watching the fire. And by watching the fire, they're doing more than watching the fire.
Yeah.
And that's how they catch them, because that's the thing. They want to see that thing go up.
Right, exactly. You got to kind of.
That's their turn on.
I think between the lines on that.
Yeah, but I think like with Batman, like I feel like the more I would say, the farther you can go with his personality or the mental state or whatever, that works in Batman. That works perfectly because Batman himself he's cuckoo, man. Like he's crazy. Insane. So like his villain's gotta be a step above like the crazy, you know?
Exactly.
So like DC should have been like, oh no, that makes sense. Run it. Let's just put it out there.
Yeah,
but it's weird.
Yeah, I don't really blame pyromaniacs because fire's kind of hot. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh god!
Really?
He really did that. He really did that. Oh man!
Really with the pun. That's okay.
I saw it, but I didn't want to take. it. I saw it there. I was like, nah, that's too low of a hanging fruit right there. But Josh,
no, but that's just weird for me to believe that they didn't want to have a character that just played with fire, and this is the same universe that the Joker's in. And he's literally a serial killer.
They didn't want to get too far into the psychosis. A lot of times, comic editors get squirrely when you get a little too close to reality with things. And I don't want the comics to be about reality. I want them to be escapist, but they have to be grounded in something we can relate to. I remember I got in trouble at Marvel with Tom DeFalco because when I was writing Savage Sword of Conan, he came to the offices and said, look, could you cut out all the sex stuff? He's always getting it on with these women he meets. And I said, he's always done that. And he says, yeah, but he looks like he's enjoying it too much.
What?
Like, okay. Sorry, what's wrong with that?
What's the problem?
Because I always saw Conan's relationship with women as a humanizing factor for the character. If you read the original Robert E. Howard stories, he had some affection for these women, and he would look out for them or whatever. And I wanted to bring that to the comics, not just he meets the bimbo of the month. That's it. I wanted a little bit more than that. A little bit more relationship stuff. I mean, not soap opera crybaby stuff, but
right.
He's a human. He's a guy. Like most guys, women are his blind side. Tom was like, nah, he's liking it too much. It looks too real.
Now, what you gotta do is you gotta put a frown on his face. He's gotta have a frown on his face the entire time. He's there with the women. He's got a frown on his face.
That's wrong. It looks like he's working too hard or something. I mean,
oh my god. It's the same thing. Because there was like a recent thing not too long ago when the Killing Joke movie came out.
Oh yeah.
And it was the thing with Batman and how he wasn't supposed to have a thing right with Batwoman. And so superheroes don't do that. Oh really?
Even the most recent thing with the Harley Quinn show with Batman.
Oh yeah. Talk about Batman don't do anything. I'm like, no, Batman doesn't think. Batman gets down. All right, let's not act like he don't. All right.
Well, if Batman does, and Bruce Wayne does.
Right. Either way, either way, like.
Because if you're going to be a billionaire playboy, you got to do the playboy part too. The money.
Yeah, exactly. You got to do it. Like
exactly.
And I was a kid. You didn't think about these things. When Denny O'Neil shows up and it's Talia, Ra's al Ghul's daughter, and the next thing we see is Batman. He's got his shirt off, and I'm like, okay, I know what's going on here.
Right?
They're a thing. It was like we've moved from Batman into a James Bond kind of thing. And I thought, well, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because my thing is, it isn't a big detraction from what you think that character would do. It fits. I was like, okay, yeah, this can definitely work. So I don't know. I guess I see what people are talking about when they have, I guess, something that's meant for a certain audience. But like, for instance, the Harley Quinn show, I mean, it's a bunch of cursing and profanity. And so I'm just like, putting a couple sexual elements in there isn't going to hurt anybody. Yeah. I don't see the problem.
That's what they went for. Yeah, you may as well go all the way.
Oh
Just
yeah.
go,
Just go all the way with it. If you're gonna do it all the way. Don't half-ass it. You know.
I always say these are at the bottom. I know we're all fans and we love these characters and everything else, but at the bottom, they're children's wish fulfillment characters.
For sure.
But that horse left the barn a long time ago. I mean, DC and Marvel made a decision that this was adult entertainment in some aspects, and there's no getting that toothpaste back in the tube now. I remember once Mike Barron, when he was writing Punisher, he told Don Daly, his editor, he said, I think that Frank Castle ought to get laid now and then. He's a guy, and he's not like the other Marvel characters. He's aimed more at adults. And Don, what do you have? He has a girlfriend, like a Lois Lane, or he's in a serious romantic relationship? You know, it doesn't.
No.
And so Barron said, no, he goes to see hookers.
Nice.
When Don told me that, I'm like, well, you know, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Punisher is a character that literally kills a lot of people. He ain't got time to have a relationship with nobody. Hey, girls over there, gotta do that real quick and go back to my mission of killing whoever I need to kill today.
Yeah, and he's not looking to replace his wife. That's never gonna happen.
Oh no.
Right, exactly.
It made perfect sense. I realize we can't do it in a code comic book, but it makes absolutely perfect sense.
Yeah.
So then I got him involved with Rosalie Carbone. So he finally got somewhere with somebody.
And like I said, it just has to make sense to the character. It's just like in certain, like we were talking about Dimitri's Marcus not too long ago with Venom and character for Carnage, and how like he just all of a sudden has a love interest. You know,
that was a weird choice. Like when I saw that, I was just like, man, I want to leave now. Like this is I don't like this. You know, like why is Carnage like having a romantic relationship with somebody? He's a character that does not care about that. He just wants to literally see the world burn. That is his whole purpose. And Carnage, literally his namesake, Carnage.
Right.
He's modeled after the Joker. Come on now. Like you see what Joker's relationship with Harley Quinn, like they're not. They're, it's more of a one-sided thing. It's not. So
it's a relationship of convenience.
Yes.
What kind of relationship could you have with a guy like that? He wakes up in the morning, he's a different guy.
Every day. You don't know who you gonna get.
Right.
And his obsession with Batman, there ain't no room for nobody else in his life.
No, he will shoot her to get to.
He has not only knocked her out of windows and cars and stuff to get to Batman or to get away from Batman. He's done all kind of things, and she's just like, "Oh, that's perfectly fine." I'm like, "Nah, that's not okay."
This is kind of toxic here. Right?
I don't like this. This is toxic, but it fits his character though. Joker to have a love interest.
Well, it reflects real life too. We've all seen people with relationships like that. Like,
yeah.
Why is she with him? Why is he with her? So obviously, this person is out to abuse him or use her or use them. It's not a love match, but one of them believes it is.
Yep,
exactly.
And Harley's like every other woman. She thinks, "Oh, I can make him change."
Nah, Joker's been gone for decades, man. He's been gone for a long time. He's checked out. There is no saving him.
Yeah, but yeah, just like this was stuff like that. I really appreciate when comic book writers take the time to put more like human characteristics into fictional characters, and especially if it's in a natural progression. Like I don't particularly like when in works of fiction when like two characters like instantly have feelings for each other.
Oh yeah,
no.
I always say they have to earn it.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you're doing a love story, both characters have to do something to earn it, and that's the challenge. Either the guy's after the girl and wants to, attract her to him, or whatever challenges are pulling them together and pulling them apart at the same time. And then, but the other thing that's important is you got to make the readers or the audience love them too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And want them to be together. Like, I love these characters and I want them to be together really bad. You can't just have two people meet and it's not a story.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not honest to real life either, and that's what it's about. People talk about realism in comics. Forget realism. It's honesty. Can you relate to what's going on, even though it's crazy? You know, and I mean, I could relate to Peter Parker. I felt like I was.
I was just
Peter
finna
Parker.
say that. I was just.
Agreed.
I was
Yeah.
just finna say that. He had to earn to get any of the girls he talked to. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I slipped up and got lucky, like in the movies where he got lucky in his new movie and got a senior to go to prom with. I was like, wow,
Right.
That's like, right? Because I'm like,
never got nothing on the first try with no woman.
Nah, Mary Jane.
Peter Parker is. You always thought they're gonna dump him.
Exactly.
Right.
Screw up, they're gonna dump him, and they made you keep thinking. That tension was all the time.
And I really love that. Like even when the craziest characters, when they have a little bit of humanity put written into them, like one of my favorite, like we talked about the Killing Joke, like one of my favorite scenes of all time is just like, and like I said, it was earned because like you have this character and he's just been crazy nonstop. The clock doesn't go off for this guy. He wants to not kill Batman, but to ruin his life and pretty much make them to be like kind of on the same level, sort of. He wants to see him lose his composure. And in the final moments of the Killing Joke, I feel like that kind of happened, not in the way that the Joker wanted, but they were on the same level because the Joker, for a millisecond, just came back down from that crazy. And he was just like, Batman was trying to explain to him, hey man, stop. I can reform you. You don't have to be this guy. And the Joker's, look, man, like, I'm far gone. This is what I want to be. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be anything but this. Then goes right back to telling the joke. It's so cool. I love that stuff. That's why writing is so important to me. I'm just like, comic books, they could be as crazy and fantastic as they want to be, but you cannot like skip on good writing. You just can't.
No. The writing's got to be good. Like you can have it like visually look amazing, but if the writing is not good, the book is not good. Like vice versa. If the artwork's not amazing, then the writing falls short, or it doesn't fall short, but it visually doesn't stack up to it. The writing might be great, but it's I'm not gonna get another issue of this book. The artwork wasn't great, but it was a good story.
Exactly. So it just doesn't like I said, it just doesn't, I guess, carry the story forward. And the artwork might be great, but the story still needs to. But with that being said, I want to ask you, Chuck, like, how did you get from Robin to writing the character that beat Batman?
I think it was in between the two Robin miniseries. Denny said, you want to write an arc on Batman? I'm like, yeah, okay. And so I wrote a 3-issue arc. And I love Batman. I love Batman since I was a kid, but I didn't feel like I had anything new to say about the character or anything like that. And I told him, I said, this may be the only Batman story I have in me. And he didn't say anything. And then we had the Bat Summit where he laid out Nightfall. Now, we didn't know what the Bat Summit was about. And I'm invited to it. And I'm thinking, I'm the Robin guy. Why do why do I want to be with why would they want me there? And I remember talking to Don Daly, who was my Punisher editor at the time. And I told him, I said, I don't know if I want to go to this thing because what am I there for? And what if I say the wrong thing? Or I just felt like the kid sitting in the back of the classroom. You sit in the back and be quiet. And he said, well, how long do you want to work in this business? I said, to the day I die. And he says, go to the Bat Summit. Right. And so I go there, and the first morning I'm sitting there, and everybody, Doug Mensch, Alan Grant, and Denny, and Kelly Puckett, and I don't know if Scott Peterson was there at that time or not, and Jeanette Kahn, the publisher, and they're going back and forth about these big plans they have, and I'm like, whoa, this Nightfall thing is incredible. And Denny's laying it all out, and so we break for lunch, and we're gonna. Everybody's going off to lunch, and Denny says, hey, Chuck, hang back a minute. And I'm thinking, well, this is where they send me home. I haven't said a thing all morning because I'm a Robin guy. Nobody asked me, what's Robin going to do during Nightfall? Nobody, it's Batman. And so then he says, would you like to be regular writer on Detective? And I said, yes. I said, because I want to be part of this so bad. And he said, it's yours if you want it. I said, sign me up. So that the afternoon was a whole different thing. Now I was a player. That was part of it. So,
nice.
So yeah, I mean, but I never imagined I would ever write Batman, let alone write Batman for 11 years.
Wow, no, that's definitely amazing. So I wanna know, because there's been so many, of course, versions of this particular character. I want to know, when you were forming Bane or writing for Bane, what did you have in mind for that character, or how did that character come to be?
The Nightfall event was a 2-year event. It was planned out. It was going to last 2 years, and at the middle of it all was this new villain who was going to break Batman's back. And all we knew about him was he was the intellectual equal to Batman. He was the physical equal to Batman. And he was addicted to Venom, this super steroid that Denny had created. You know, human growth hormone, narcotic, whatever the hell it is. It's addictive and it turns him into a monster. And that's all we knew. And I kept saying, for this whole thing to work, he's got to be really popular. He's got to click with the public. They either got to love him or hate him. They got to evoke something. I said, how do you do that? How do you purposely create a character to be popular? If we could do it, we'd do it every day.
Right, exactly.
And I said, look, Silver Surfer was created so Galactus would have somebody to talk to. Wolverine was a one-off Hulk opponent. Nobody ever thought they'd see him again.
I didn't know that.
So I kept saying, we were going to have to really sweat this. And eventually Denny said, just go home and create it. I said, you're so worried about this, just build him from the ground up. And so I just went home. I called Graham Nolan because I knew he was going to be the first guy to draw him. I talked out loud. He bounced some ideas back to me. We decided he was going to be Latino. Graham came up with the luchador look, the wrestler look, because of the mask, so you couldn't see his face, all the rest of it. And then I just thought, what kind of guy would this be? I want him to have a childhood trauma, just like Batman. So he liked Batman in a way. I said, what childhood trauma would it be? And I read an article about how in North Korea, if your dad committed a crime and they couldn't catch your dad, they put you in jail. They put your mom in jail. They put your brother and sister and everybody else in jail. So somebody was going to get punished. And I thought, what about a kid who's put in jail when he's a kid? And I thought, whoa, what if he's born in jail to serve his father's life sentence? What kind of a monster would come out the other end of that 30 years later? And that's where it started. And and then I got the name. I went through the thesaurus. I looked up evil. there's Bane. I say, hey, I like that. I called them DC and I said, I want to call this guy Bane. And they're like, oh, we hate that. Wow. Remember, this was the 90s. They wanted something like a Shadow Trooper or something like that. And I was like, no, those names are all forgettable. Right now, who killed Superman? What was the guy's name?
Oh.
Yeah.
I was like, wait.
it's late night. You gotta
yeah, still. Hey, if I asked you who broke Batman's back,
we already know Bane immediately. Yeah.
So after about 3 days, they all were calling him Bane, even though they hated me. 3 days before, that's what he was called.
Wow, that's
and I honestly, when I really got into comic books and I started like figuring out like Batman's rogue gallery, and I started like to read more up on Bane, because I always was like, yeah, the Joker is my favorite villain, blah blah blah. Then when I like discovered that Nightfall story and stuff, I was like, wow, like this dude he's here and he got it here. And that's what I liked about, like you said, he was Batman's equal. And that's what I kind of liked about like the Dark Knight Rises, is they kind of showed that Bane had the intelligence where he could match Batman, and he knew how to go right at him. What did he say? I forget the line, but he was like, he went for his money and all that stuff. So I really appreciate it.
When you boil it all down, Batman is a badass. Yes, and Bane is a badass. But most of the Batman villains, they're not badasses.
Yeah, they're wimpy.
Joker's not a badass. Riddler's not a badass. Penguin isn't a badass. And that's what we needed. We needed someone. It cracked me up. I mean, when the animated series was on, they were making all these toys. I don't know if you guys remember this. There was this toy where it was like you press these buttons and Batman would punch the Riddler or punch Penguin, and he would punch back and forth. It was like a little rock'em sock'em robot.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that fight is over before it's
okay? Because Batman's just knocking his lights out immediately. One punch is done. Because most of like Batman's villains they're not like able to last in a fight longer than one, maybe two punches. Maybe they dodge Batman's first punch and then they're trying to make it connect and Batman gives them the right to the whatever. But Bane's, I'm eating those. Like those are hurting me. like he said in the movie, like he was like, "Oh, darkness is your strength." Or he was like, "No, I was born." I was like, "Oh, born in it, molded in it." I was like, "Oh no, like that you done messed up today."
you talk about a beat down, like top 5, but like most terrible beat downs in the superhero movie. That's probably
he beat him so bad the lights came back on. That's how bad.
I mean, you can beat me up, man, but don't give me a monologue while you do it. You know, he didn't give me his whole backstory. Like, no, don't get up. Let me finish. It's like, dude. But yeah, Chuck, you made an amazing character. Like I love it.
You see this back shelf here? I got 2 shelves. It's nothing but Bane action figures.
I see. I noticed them. I peep them.
Awesome.
Yeah, of course we saw it.
I can't believe that he caught on that. I just wanted him to catch on to make the Nightfall thing, help make the Nightfall thing successful. But everybody knows who he is now. You go like that and talk funny, and they know you're.
That's it. That's exactly what you got to do. And it's crazy. I didn't even think about it like that. For the most part, all of Batman's villains they fight from a distance. They're all completely scrawny. Like, that's crazy. And Bane's
Bane fills the slot that KG Beast used to fill.
Yeah.
KG Beast was smart and he was tough, but when the Soviet Union fell, he was irrelevant. So
yeah.
And Killer Croc's just a big monster.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot about Killer Croc.
He's a big hired gun, hired henchman or whatever. You tell him to go do something. Like, go stop, go give the Batman some trouble for a little bit. I go do this plan over here. Distract him. The mastermind of these things.
Yeah. I mean, with Bane, he's always 3 moves ahead. So.
No, that's great to have a calculating character like that. And I also wanted to know, how did Birds of Prey come to be also?
Jordan Gorfinkel, who was one of my editors, he was one of Denny's assistant or associate editors. He had this idea that Black Canary and Oracle would be a great team. And he came up with the idea that Black Canary wouldn't know who she was working for. She wouldn't know a man or a woman or whatever. And he kept coming to me and saying, I want you to do this. I want you to do this. And I said, look, I'm really busy. I don't see it. I don't see what you're talking about. Black Canary just had a comic and it got canceled. So I don't see that this will work. Finally, he convinced me and I wrote a 1-shot and it did okay. And then he kept pushing for it, and we did 1-shots and miniseries and then finally got a monthly. But 6 pages into that 1-shot, I'm like, man, he's right. These characters have a chemistry because they're so different from each other that it works. And the gimmick works where Black Canary doesn't know who she's working with, but she needs a mission. She needs something to do to fill in her life. And Oracle fills that spot. And it's really him who created it and drove it. And I asked him recently, I said, why did you keep after me for months to write it? Why don't you just go to somebody else? And he says, I knew you'd be the only person who would take it seriously. Thank you, Gorf.
Yes. Thank you. For sure. That's definitely awesome. Yeah. You've done so many great works. Oh, were you about to say something, Joshua?
Yeah, I was especially going to mention your novels because I typed your name into the Kindle app on my iPhone.
So you beat me to it, Josh.
And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh wow, he has books too. I especially appreciate how you wrote Levon and Dwight, because that took some time, and I read the first book of Levon Kane and the first book of what is it? Because Bad Times is actually like it's like a sub name, and all the books are like different.
It's Bad Times, and then it's Cannibal Gold or Sons of Heaven. So yeah. The blanket title is Bad Times.
And I just appreciate how one thing I love about writing on fictional characters is I'm really big on the introduction of the character. And I just like particularly how you have a real tough character, but they might be tough, but you take time to realize that they do have a soft side in some respect, and they have a particular reason why they do what they do. Like, I like how...
Yeah, I talked to a soap opera writer a couple of years ago, and she said, I read some of your books, and she said, I don't know how you do it, but in a very short space of time, you get me involved with these characters and make me care about them. How do you do that? And I said, it's my deathly fear of boring the reader.
That makes sense.
So that, yeah.
I feel like I got a cattle prod on me. Get them interested, pull them in, engage them, make sure these characters are clear, concise, have clear motivations, and are likable. But thank you.
Yeah, I think that's like how you have to write characters, is like with the idea of the audience. Like you can't forget that. Like you can't go, oh, I'm going to do this story the way that I want to and forget the audience, because it won't sell, because the audience is like, well, I can't see anything in this. You didn't really develop the characters enough. You just told me a story, and I don't really feel like I want to invest any more in it. But if you get them invested in it, you really flesh out all the characters, you can get them to go, oh, I didn't really necessarily like it, but I'm interested enough to see where this goes.
Right. Yeah, I always say when you're creating a character, you have to create things that you like about the character, things that are admirable, and then some things you don't like about the character. Peter Parker, like I said, I could relate to Peter Parker, but sometimes it was like, man, suck it up. Just because you took the costume off doesn't mean you just totally lost your testicles. And then, and then Batman can be a bit of a jerk sometimes.
Yeah.
He can. Especially the Robin, like all the Robins.
Yeah, all the Robins.
And to Commissioner Gordon, disappearing.
Yes.
It's like,
I can't.
Let the guy say goodbye. Why do you got to humiliate him every time you meet the guy?
Just poof, I'm gone. But no, but it makes sense why he's not really affectionate with his Robins, because like he's going through a trauma of his getting murdered and then being raised by his butler, he might not have been the best parent figure, but so it makes sense that he doesn't treat him. And I think that all the Robins understand that, but they still give him crap about it. Like they're still going to give you crap. They still give him crap. Like I think Dick Grayson gives him a lot of crap about it. I'm just like, makes sense.
It's almost, I've never really thought about it this way before, but it's almost like getting close to the Robins brings up issues with him he'd rather not think about. So he doesn't want to relate to them 100% because he doesn't want to go there.
That's how I looked at it always. It's like they come in and they be like, yeah, Batman, so did you ever think about like when sometimes you might cross the line when you're fighting your villains, and we don't have time to talk about this, and then he shoots his grappling gun and he's gone. Seriously though, that's exactly how it goes. It plays out in this game. Batman, they're just trying to look out for you, make sure you don't go bats on them. No pun intended.
Right. He's just too focused on the mission. Then he's like, I ain't got time to worry about if I'm crossing the line. I got to get this justice done, man. I got to get the answers I need. I got to catch him. I can't be sitting. Did that cross the line? Me breaking this dude's leg in 3 different ways to get him to talk to me. Did that cross the line? Maybe, but I got to go get the Joker, so I can't focus on that.
One of my earliest Batman stories, Batman is actually killed by the electrocutioner, electrocuted to death. And Robin forces the electrocutioner to shock Batman back to life. Which he does. Back at the Batcave, Robin's, you need to take the night off. You need to rest. You were dead. And he says, I was clinically dead. I wasn't biologically dead. and then Robin turns to Alfred and says, could you help me here? And he goes, do you hear what he just said? You can't talk to a guy like that. He's never going to listen to me.
It's like, Bruce, relax, man.
I got one question for you though. Like, since all these different people have portrayed Batman, or you did the voice, I just gotta ask, especially after the animated series, like when you read these comics, like Batman comics, even if you go back to reading ones you've written, whose voice do you hear when you're reading those comics? Because for me, it's Kevin Conroy all the way. I hear his voice every time I read a Batman comic. It's like I can't get it out of my head. I cannot.
Yeah.
I think he was. I think he was the best voice. I can't argue with that animated series with the voice actors. Having Henry Silva do Bane, one of the creepiest character actor villain guys ever, and he's saying lines I wrote. So that is so cool. But they were so clever at the casting on that show with the voices, just dead on. Because when you think about it, it's the first animated drama done in this country.
For sure.
It wasn't like the other cartoon shows where everybody talked like this. It was like real actors being dramatic. They were like it was a movie or a play.
No, it has, and it's unmatched. It still holds up today.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think
was
it's
just watching it the other day, and it's oh my god, it's still so good.
Those guys are so into it because they were visiting DC a lot, and we had a lot of interaction with the animation guys, and they were into it. They wanted to be true to it the same way we do.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just because they didn't talk down to the audience. They just played it. They just put it out there, and as you got older, you're like, oh wow, I didn't see it that way. But now I see what the real intent of what the story was.
Yeah.
Like I always say this, but like X-Men, like the animated series is like a lot more like serious when you like go back and watch it as an adult versus when you watch it as a kid. Like as a kid, you're like, oh, Wolverine's cutting up a 7-year-old. That's perfectly fine. Now you're like, oh my gosh, you're in a toxic relationship, Wolverine. You need to nip that in the bud, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of subtext to those shows that, like I said, Air Force jokes right over the kid's head. And you can judge. It's like the 1966 Batman show. When you watch it now, it's a whole different show than when I saw it when I was a kid.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, on the topic of Marvel and DC, what are your thoughts on the current state of both of those companies?
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad what they're doing, and the problem is, like I said, the animation guys are really into it. We were really into it. They don't seem to be into it. They're not.
No.
A lot of the decisions are being made by people who aren't going to be in comics the rest of their life. They don't plan on being in comics the rest of their life. They don't really care about comics. They don't care about these characters, and it shows in the work. There's some good things being done, but for the most part, the people directing these things either have no idea what they're doing, or they hired their friend, or they have an agenda.
Yeah.
Mostly it's so that, I worked at Marvel, and it looks good on their resume when they go to get another job.
Yeah, that because I know I was going to ask this question in relation to his question, but like, how do you feel about what they did recently with Tim Drake? Like, how do you feel about that change? Like,
it's just idiotic. The character's been around forever. There's no indication he was bisexual. Why even bring that up? If you want to have a character, I don't know, they're wish fulfillment characters. Does anybody wish to be bisexual? I don't know. Maybe they do. It just, and then you've eliminated a large portion of the audience that can't relate to that character anymore, because that's not the, it's if you really like the character, and then all of a sudden you found out he was a Baptist, and you're not a Baptist, and you feel left out. There's nothing wrong with being a Baptist, but you can't relate to him on that level anymore. I used to avoid all that kind of stuff, talking about the character's religion or anything like that, because I want you to relate to them. And like I said, if it's a badass character, I don't care. I don't care about any of that stuff.
Oh, of course.
I just want to read about him being a badass. And if you want to have a character like that, create a new one.
I agree. That's my literal thing. That's what I say to everybody. That's like my go-to thing.
I mean, piggyback. The Golden Age Green Lantern is gay. What's the point of that? What's the point? Who cares? So leave those characters alone. Create a new character. I agree. Over and over again. You want a gay character? I'll create a gay character. I'll create a gay character. I'll make you cry. But no. So we're going to take what's already here, because they have no idea what to do. They don't know how to create characters. They're not really creative people anymore. And they want to have that backstop, of this character's already popular. Now they drive their sales down to nothing.
Oh yeah, their sales in the red, man.
Yeah.
But and it's crazy how they try to, or they go to appeal to that certain demographic. But like when you ask that demographic, most of them don't understand that there's multiple different Robins. They only think, oh, Robin is gay. So they're like, so when you ask them, they're like, what do you mean? Like, Robin's gay? And I'm like, which? And they get stumped. So you're appealing to an audience that doesn't read your books. So like, you're already failing.
I used this argument when I was in the Batman offices, and one of the writers, he was stuck for a story that month, and he wanted to write a story. And this wasn't one of the core. This wasn't Doug or Alan. He wanted to write a story about how Commissioner Gordon finally figures out Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Okay.
And they were going to go with it. And I said, no, because 99.9% of the public out there in the world knows Commissioner Gordon does not know Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Right.
And you can't mess with that depth of continuity, because, and for one story,
right.
And I said, there's a lot he would know because he's a great detective. I said, why would he know? If Batman was real, wouldn't you assume he's Batman all the time? You don't say Tom Cruise, he must have a secret identity. No, he's Tom Cruise all the
time. And that makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's like Superman. Oh, so who's Superman must have a secret. Really? Why?
Why?
I'm Superman. I'm just going to be Superman. I'm never going to take this costume off. When I'm tired and I want to go sleep, I got a place at the North Pole.
Sleep in the outfit, man. I don't take this thing off. It just stays. Like, you wouldn't think Bruce Wayne is Batman because you wouldn't go, oh, he has a lot of money.
Yeah.
He must be Batman. Yeah, it's hard to hear right. It's like Batman.
Well, to the regular person, it looks like he has no reason to do that. It's like you could just go to your mansion and chill, bro. Like, why are you risking your life ever? So that leads into good storytelling, because it's like, why would this guy, this billionaire playboy, have anything he wants? Why would he go out and literally try to kill himself every night?
Yeah. Unless you like obviously a reader in Batman's Bruce Wayne, you're not gonna ask these questions. You're not gonna go, well, he's got a lot of money. Batman's got all his gadgets. They must be the same person. Like unless you're like the greatest detective in the world, you're better than Batman. You're not gonna come to that conclusion. Bane technically knows Batman's Bruce Wayne. It's because he's on that level.
Well, the thing is, I mean, when it comes to Spider-Man or when it came to my Tim Drake Robin, they live with family members, so the secret identity thing is a thing. They have to hide the secret identity.
Yeah.
And then it makes sense. And then it does. It leads to great stories. I mean, some of my favorite Spider-Man stories is where he's going to get his identity revealed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, because he's got Aunt May and he's got all these personal relationships. And the nature of the character, you assume he lives among us. You know, but Superman and Batman, he's got a car. He don't live among us. He commutes. He goes out somewhere. He's not. I mean, he might not even live in Gotham.
How do you think we could? Oh, were you about to say, John?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's just interesting how that works. So, I guess it just depends on just the overall theme of the character, because
exactly.
I guess with Spider-Man, you would think, yeah, he's a character that's among civilians because of the type of commuting that he does.
Right.
He swings around town, like interacts with the people.
Yeah.
But Batman and Superman they're more like loners.
Yeah, Batman's not shaking hands and kissing babies. You don't want to run. People are actively going towards Spider-Man. Oh, let me get a picture.
Nobody wants to take a picture with Batman. Yeah, nobody wants to take a picture with Batman.
Batman's not taking selfies, but
how do you also had J. Jonah Jameson, like that negative PR. Like he's one of us.
Exactly.
You know, your next door neighbor could be Spider-Man, so he's promoting this idea.
He's exactly.
Right. He's big. He's Spider-Man's biggest like hype man. Like without like yeah.
Like the negative, right? Exactly. Any kind of press is good press, basically. Like,
exactly.
But no, Batman's not going anywhere during the day either. So it's just like,
Well, except for that one story where he like literally he saves Gotham City and he gets that like light blue suit or whatever, and he's like in the daytime. When you remember that run? Remember I told you about that run where he's like it's daytime Batman. I'm just like, why does it look like Metropolis right now? Like why does it look like where Superman's from?
It looked like Metropolis. Yes. So do you think like we could remedy like what's going on with like comic books right now, or how do you think, because obviously guys like you and a lot of other great writers are still around, are you guys being asked to help, or are you still in that role?
No, I mean I always say the fact that Jerry Ordway doesn't have a monthly book either as a writer or an artist tells you everything you need to know about DC Comics. Why would you take a guy with the peak of his powers and just put him on there's no one answer to anything. You know this in life. There's no one answer. So try everything. Do everything.
Sure.
Do some sort of event publishing. I always use the example when they did New 52, they micromanaged it. They made it one big story. And they told all the writers and artists what to do. And they were directing them. No, that's not what they should have done. They should have said, we're going to do the New 52. We're going to have 52 creative teams. And they're going to go wherever the hell they want. And do whatever the hell they want. And as a comic book fan, in your heart, half of them would have been pretty awesome.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And at least a quarter of them would have been hits.
Because
they were led to do. Look at X-Men when they reformed X-Men. They didn't know that was going anywhere. X-Men was a title facing cancellation. It had been canceled or whatever. And they do that giant size, they reform. Yep. It's what the hell? Just throw this against the wall and see what happens. Let's see what these goofy guys want to do with it. And boom. Gene Colan, the artist Gene Colan, He told me a story once that he went to Marvel to deliver a story and get a paycheck.
Mhm.
And Stan said, I don't have any more work for you. We might be going out of business. But Steve and Jack and Don and I are going to try something. And if it works, there'll be more work. If it doesn't, we're closing the doors forever. We know what they tried. They tried Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Hulk, Iron Man, and
did the thing. Yeah.
Yep.
And that energy is gone from the big two.
Wow.
Gone.
So
It's not a bunch of guys just doing crazy stuff and going wild.
It's more like it's like a kind of like political thing now. Like you said, it's a lot of like big names. Like they'll do stuff like go grab J.J. Abrams and some like directors or somebody to get them to work on a comic book, and it's like a one shot. And then they sell it off of the name instead. It's almost like now they sell it off the name instead of the actual character. And you definitely can see that with it, even with reading it. I think the last Batman comic I read from like the new line of DC was the new Batman, where it was supposed to be a Lucius Fox.
Yeah.
Oh, the Jace.
And I was reading it and I was like, I just can't relate to the story, not even the character, but like the story just, it had no like oomph to it. It was almost just like they took a guy and put him in a suit and called him Batman and kind of just let him loose. And you can tell that's what, like you said, you can tell that's what they're doing. And they're missing like that spark and that magic that came from comic books from you guys. They're missing that, and you can definitely tell. And me and Dmitri say it all the time. That's really why we don't read a lot of comic books now. Anything we read is probably from before we were born or like when we were born. So you definitely see it. So I 100% agree with that.
I think it's just like like you said, like they're not letting them be creative anymore. They're saying, hey, we're going to put this dude in this brand or title, whatever, the Spider-Man or whatever. And we're going to sell this as that, but it's not necessarily, we're not going to go any further than that. We're just going to do this just to sell whatever statement we're trying to sell. And we're not going to actually develop the story or the characters or whatever. And that's why when I see certain changes to the character, how do you explain it? You know how like they change, let's say Hulk to someone else or like Batman to someone else. You can already tell like the story isn't going to be kicking like that. It's just not. And that's what sucks. Because like you said, New 52 could have been great. They all do different. No, Future State could have been good if they would have focused on not trying to change everything and just like running good stories. They could have made that great. They could have really tied in Batman Beyond and stuff like that and brought that line back or whatever. Because it's all future stuff. So you could have future Batman literally be Batman Beyond and keep it going.
Right.
Instead of creating Jace or whatever and having him be the future Batman, I'm like, we already had a future Batman. You guys just didn't want to continue that line, which is a good line. Like the Batman Beyond line was good. I kept up with it. So,
But that's the trouble is you say, we're going to reboot this. Well, that didn't work. Well, now we're going to reboot this. Well, the problem is you're doing the rebooting. It's the same people doing the rebooting. Like, I got an idea. Oh, that didn't work. I got another idea. Well, is this idea better than the last one? Well, no, not really. But it's an idea. I got to keep my job. But it's a comic book company. You have all this talent you can reach out to. You can literally call a guy on the phone. You want to write this? Call another guy. Do you want to draw this? And then do it. Let them do it. Just when I got hired to do Batman, Denny didn't tell me what to do. He didn't tell me what to write. And I would say, I'm going to go in this direction, or I want to meet this, because you had to tell him, I'm going to meet this villain. Oh, you can't because he's going to be in another comic that month. So you had to do a little bit of planning. But for the most part, you were just left to go wherever you wanted to go. And sometimes they didn't like it and they let you know. But unless you really screwed up, they kept you on the book as long as the sales were good and the readers liked it. So, because I wrote a Batman arc, the editors hated it. And Graham Nolan and I, we were so proud of it. We thought it was our ultimate Batman story, and they hated it. So,
okay, so you're saying like the biggest problem, well, I won't say the biggest problem, but it's not so much that people aren't creating enough original characters, but it's just that the big two have too much of a foothold on what writers and artists are allowed to put out. Really.
Yeah, there's too much micromanaging. I saw it. I had that short, brief stint back at DC, and it was constant rewrites and changing. And most of them don't make any sense. You're not making the comic better. You're making it, you're dumbing it down, or you're making it more complicated than it has to be. It just got harder and harder to write for them because I'd spend a lot of my day second guessing them. I might not like this, I might not like that. Whereas I never, under Denny or under Don Daly on Punisher or under Larry Hama on Conan, I knew they have faith in me and they know I'm taking this seriously. They know I'm earnest and conscientious about this, and they're letting me do my best work. But you can't do your best work if someone's standing over your shoulder saying, well, why are you doing that? Why is he saying that? Well, this is why it makes sense for the story.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, like, with that being said too, like, one good thing that came out of that, like, all of that going on, is now even some of the guys who you work with, or even guys that were probably there for a minute, they left these companies when it started their own indie, like, independent. So they went with a little small comic book publisher because those guys were like, hey, we're gonna let y'all write y'all stories as long as it sells. Like, when you go to these Dragon Cons and Comic Cons, you meet a lot of guys. Like, when I went to Dragon Con, it was a lot of people at booths, and they were famous comic book artists or writers, but they had their, like, own comics they were, promoting at their booths too. And that's the part of it that I do. It gives us a chance, people like you, and even up and coming, like, writers or artists like us, to, if we can't get in that line, we'll just do it ourselves. It could be done that way now. So I think that's like the one, like, little golden nugget that came from all of that going on. So I do love that part. It gives writers a voice.
I always kept one foot in creator owned and one foot work for hire. I worked for DC and Marvel, but the whole time I was creating stuff for smaller publishers that I would own. So that was always important to me, because when they're done with you in comics, they put you aside. So if you don't own anything, you don't have anything to trade. And I love seeing this. And you're right, it opens it to everybody. There's no reason why you can't do comics now if you want to do comics. If you want to do the hard work of marketing and promoting and getting yourself seen, you can do it.
Yep.
I mean, my good friend Graham Nolan, I mean, he's getting paid better now on his own than he did when he was doing Batman. So
wow.
It's a lot of work. He's got to do all the jobs. He's got to do the marketing and solicitation. In some cases, even stuffing the envelopes and going to the post office. But there's no one telling him what to do. And the fans are responding to it. The readers are responding to it. He's got a great fan base, and I'm so happy for him, because you got a lot of other guys that they're just literally greeting at Walmart or something. They can't get work in comics. They don't know what to do. Or they're sitting home doing commissions, which is wonderful, but it's a waste.
That just proves that, like, the work that they did for Marvel that they weren't allowed to do was just good work. It just proved that they knew what they were doing when it came to writing or illustrating or whatever they were doing, that they're good, because the fans will follow wherever the good stuff is. Like, the thing is, I always say this, or I've said this to people, is like, the work itself is good regardless of whoever does it. Meaning, if it's good work, it's just good work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to sell. So if you're not, like with the big two and their what books they're putting now, it's not good work because it's not selling. And you can make any kind of reason you want to make up for it, but it's just the work's not good. Like,
which is crazy, because you've got Batman, Superman, Spider-Man,
right?
Captain America, and you can't sell them.
Right?
But I have friends who are creating brand new characters nobody ever heard of before, and they're doing fine because people are, like you said, they're attracted to the quality work. This is a good comic. I enjoyed the story. The artwork was appealing. I want to read more of this, even though I never heard of it before. But then you got these iconic, great characters, been around 80 freaking years.
Right?
Millions of readers have read these and love these characters, and you still can't sell them? Don't you think you should look in the mirror? Or maybe
self-reflection.
Go find another job and stop bothering us. Get out of comics. Stop bothering us.
Like, when you think like Batman, something that's like, you don't even have to be a comic book fan to know who Batman is. You can't sell him to the layman. Like, to a person that's walking past a comic book store won't pick up your book. Like, there's something wrong with that. Like,
or to a longtime fan.
Exactly, too.
I love Batman. I bought every Batman comic, but I threw my hands up 5 years ago and I can't even look at it. That's really sad. And it's wrong. And it's a disservice to all of us. I want them to succeed. I want Marvel to succeed and do great comics, even if I never work for them again.
Exactly.
Because a lot of my friends will have jobs and everything will be great. Because Marvel and DC floats all the boats for all those other publishers. You know, if Marvel and DC do well, then Dark Horse and IDW and Boom, they all do a lot better.
Yep.
But when Marvel and DC drop the ball the way they've been doing for the last 20 years, it hurts the whole industry.
Yeah.
No, it definitely
does. Or it makes room for new independent comic books to come and just take up the space. I mean,
yeah, but there's room for all of that. There's room for all of that. In the 80s, man, it was nuts. There were so many publishers. I mean, I could have done 12 comics a month if I wanted to, because there was just so much of a need for content. And man, that's nothing compared to the need for content now. I mean, you got a global reach. You go on the internet, it's global.
Yes.
You do a digital comic, people all over the world are reading it, which is different than DC or Marvel. They got to actually print them, put them on paper, and sell them to English-speaking audience. Now I'm doing this thing, Arctoons, and we got people from everywhere reading these things, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And speaking on stuff like that, that leads me to like my next point, because we know that you have your YouTube show, Ask Chuck Dixon. I just want like an idea of your fan bases, like what your fan base thinks on the current status of comics and things like that. Because me and the guys, we're always on Twitter and Instagram, and they'll tell you a lot of the people on those particular pages seem to be pretty they're pretty much okay with a lot of the stuff that's coming out now. And yeah, that's one like an idea of what your fan base thinks about all the stuff that's coming.
Generally, my fan base is appalled by everything. I gotta wonder, these people saying they like the way the comics are now, how much of that's genuine? You know,
I'm trying to find who it
is one guy tweeting out under 30 different names. They know how to use this medium, so why not?
True.
Right.
I mean, I did a whole thing on a guy asked a question about Captain America and Superman, you know, and you know, Captain America basically apologizing for America, and Superman not saying, you know, it's not truth, justice, in the American way anymore. And so many people asked me that same question. I thought, well, next episode, I'm just going to answer that question. That's the only question I'm going to answer for the whole program. And I did. I delved into why Captain America and Superman are American icons, and the creation of them, and how they were important, and why they became popular, because they were American icons, and why there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't understand until I explained it. I got tons of emails from people saying I didn't know any of this, or I knew it, but I didn't understand the significance. Captain America, Superman, both created by two-man teams of young Jewish guys. And as I put it in the video, they were creating these characters at a time when American Jews loved America, didn't always love them back.
Yeah.
And they still created these iconic American characters, these American he-men, masculine do-gooders, you know, resourceful and everything else, because that was their vision of America. And that should be all of our vision of America, because what is America? It's not some place between Mexico and Canada. It's an idea.
Yep.
And you can move to France tomorrow and you can live there the rest of your life. You're never going to be a Frenchman. You can move to Tokyo tomorrow. You're never going to be Japanese. You could arrive here yesterday. You're an American. If you go through the process and you become a citizen, you're an American. And nobody says anything about it. Nobody says you're not. You know, you're doing your part, you're doing your thing. And that's what these guys did. That's what they had in their hearts when they created these characters. And that's why it's important that Superman fights for the American way, because his creators believed in the American way. And Captain America is created, let's face it, by two Jewish guys who were horrified at what they saw going on in Europe with the Nazis. And they created a guy who would kick Nazi ass. And
that's all he
doesn't
did.
want to read about that. You know? and that's why it's important. And that's basically where my audience for my show stands. You know, I just articulated it for them. They probably already felt this way. They just didn't know how to put it into words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because like I said, we'll tell you, we see a whole lot of stuff, and I'm trying not to name any names and articulate it the best way I can.
Please don't.
Yeah, social media as a whole. And
Right, 'cause
I
I
can
know
just
you're
say,
talking-
Chuck Dixon says this guy's awful. Like, no. Please.
Oh no, we never do that. But with that being said, one of the last things I wanted to get into, because obviously you've created some very iconic stories and very iconic characters, and of course, like anything else, like we talked about when I first got on the podcast tonight, everything's a movie. Everything in superhero, the whole superhero genre is getting movie makeovers. So I wanted to know, number one, how do you feel about a lot of these superhero movies coming out now? And specifically, how do you feel about the ones of characters that you've created?
It's really cool that they used Bane in 2 movies, and the second movie made him a household name. Everybody knew who he was after that movie. And I liked that they showed him as a master. It was close to what Graham and I did. I still like the cartoon version better than any of them, but it was fun seeing on the big screen. It's still not Bane to me. And then other stuff, they did an episode of Batman animated based on one of my detective comic stories. I thought they did a hell of a job. I was very flattered that they stuck as close to. It's an episode called Bullet for Bullock, and they stuck very close to the comic, and that was really cool. That was really neat to see. Like I said, it's very flattering. But yeah, and then Rosalie Carbone, who I created for Punisher, apparently I think she's on Luke Cage, a couple episodes of Luke Cage. And the idea being that if they ever bring those series back, that she would be a recurring character. So that's cool. I can't remember the actress who played her, but she's one of my favorite actresses. So I thought, hey, that's neat. But yeah, it's the thing is, it's a tough question for comic creators. I've done okay by the companies. Most guys have got totally ripped off, but they do not want to part with the money. I feel a lot better about all these things, but they do not want to part with that money. They come up with, if you know anything about Hollywood accounting, Hollywood accountant can sit you down, and I've had this happen, sit you down, tell you that none of the Harry Potter movies made any money. They didn't make no profit. It's like, then why'd you make them?
Right.
For the good of humanity?
Like, you could have gave me a scholarship.
How'd you afford this big house in Malibu? How'd that
happen? Oh my gosh. So did you have a lot of say in these movies at all? Like Birds of Prey or anything like that?
Dude, they invited me to the Birds of Prey premiere the day before it premiered. I'm in Florida and it was premiering in New York. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll be there. See a free movie, which has nothing to do with anything I wrote. The only time they ever contacted us about any of this stuff was for Batman Forever. Doug Mensch was asked to write an essay about Two-Face, explaining how Two-Face works, and I was asked to write an essay about the Riddler. And that's the closest and they ignored all of it. So
I was going to say they definitely did.
Yeah.
I know they didn't take that advice.
No.
Oh, no. Worst portrayal of the Riddler ever.
Yeah.
I mean, why is he called the Riddler? He asked one riddle.
The
answer was his name. And they already knew his name by the time they saw the riddle.
It was just basically Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey.
Like,
that's the problem.
Pretty much what it was.
Yeah, that was the whole thing.
So I gotta ask too, since we said the Riddler, how do you feel about the newest iteration of Batman coming out next year with Robert Pattinson leading the role, and how they gonna do the Riddler on that? Do you think that's like an interesting take on the Riddler?
I don't know. It's hard. People, they want to speculate what these movies are going to be about. And I always remember when Hugh Jackman was cast as Wolverine, and all the fans were like, "Oh, he's too tall. He's too this. He's too that. He can't be the Wolverine." Then the movie comes out. Oh man, he's great. Hugh Jackman. And people are like, Robin Pattinson, he doesn't look like this. Hey, it's a movie. Robert De Niro, who's like a midget, convinced you he was Al Capone and Untouchable. I wait till they see I trust these people know what they're doing and the magic, and we'll see if it happens. I never discount anything till I see it. And Pattinson can act.
He can act.
I've seen him in other stuff. The guy can act. So, and they'll show dailies and rushes, and something somebody took on their phone. And that's no indication of what the movie's going to look like.
Exactly.
I mean, he'll look 20 feet tall. I mean, look at Tom Hardy. What is
I was just about to say that.
Man, they made him look huge.
They made him look.
Man, he's like
7 feet
like
tall
this
now.
tall.
Yeah. I mean, Christian Bale, he's no giant either. So, you know.
Exactly. No, that's crazy. Before that movie, because I didn't know too much about Tom Hardy before the movie came out. I was just like, dang, that's a big dude. And like looking at him in other roles, I'm like, oh, I guess that camera angle is something else.
Them high lows, baby. Yeah, high lows. They can make you look big, man.
Well, also they'll scale stuff down on the set and everything. I mean, have you ever seen the movie Panic Room? Jodie Foster. It was originally starring Nicole Kidman, who's 6 feet tall, and she broke her leg. She couldn't be in it. But Jodie Foster was one of the producers, and they said, "Why don't you step in?" They had to rescale the sets and recast the movie. Mike Yoakum is a bad guy because he's only a 5'4", because she's so tiny. She's a little peanut woman.
Right.
They even had to make scaled down guns for all of them.
The important thing is, at least with Tom, the acting was there. I really dug it.
Yeah.
It was a somewhat different take on Bane, but like I said, I liked it. It was dope. That's just my favorite, I think, like villain monologue in a movie, though. It has to be.
Yeah. I quote that all the time. I quote his monologue all the time.
Who doesn't?
Like when randomly, I'll say the monologue randomly when I'm driving. I don't need to say it. I just say it randomly when I'm driving. Come on, somebody else say it just randomly. They look at me like, "Where's that from?" And I'm like, "You don't know. It's from a great fucking movie right now. It's from a great character from a great movie." Like,
oh my god,
it was scary.
I mean,
that was a good thing.
Yeah,
very much so.
That opening sequence that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
yes, I was about to say that.
Yeah, that's a great intro.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is. And have you been keeping up with a lot of superhero movies lately?
Not really. Not so much. The new whatever Marvel Phase 4, Phase 19. I'm not.
Phase 19.
We feel the same way.
Anyway.
They lost me when they killed Tony Stark. I'm like, why?
Come on,
right? Come on, man. Yeah. I mean,
well, Robert Downey Jr. can't be in the movies anymore. He's Iron Man. He can do the voice. He can't be in the movie anymore. I mean,
you can always have him in a suit, always have him in a suit.
Exactly. Yeah, just Iron Man. What the hell? I think the last one I really enjoyed was, I like the Ant-Man movies.
The Ant-Man are good. Yeah.
It's fun stuff. That's Marvel Comics. That's the problem. As they move further away from the source material, they lose me.
Yeah.
I saw trailers for Eternals. It's like, I don't recognize any of this.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah. Let's not talk about the movie. The movie did things to me mentally that I haven't recovered from yet. I went to go see it twice, and it was not the greatest.
You sat through that 2 times.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. It just didn't. It was just. Because what they did is they were doing a lot of, what do you call it? Not like, they were doing a lot of exposition. Oh, we have to set.
They were doing a lot of setup for what.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, a lot of setup for other things. They were like, oh, hey, Thanos was right. And I'm like, all right, great. Cool.
The problem is when you set things up in a story, the audience shouldn't realize you're setting stuff up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Later on, they go, oh, wow. I remember earlier in the movie when they set that up.
Right. Exactly.
But I didn't realize it at the time but movies now it's this is important. Wink, wink, wink. And it's
like they spoon feed you way too much now. I think MCU wise, like they don't give it. I think it's just with the way of like technology and how like we can like here's a review of it, and you know what I'm saying. You can it's more like in your face now. Before it was like
You think about Die Hard. John McClane's on the plane, and that guy tells him about how when he gets off the plane, he goes to the hotel room, takes his shoes off, and scrunches his toes in the carpet, and it makes him feel better. So Bruce Willis sets up and being barefoot for the rest of the film. It's stuff like that.
Yeah.
When you're watching that scene, you think it's funny or cute, but you're not thinking this is significant. And that's the way, apparently, this Eternals, it's just, there's all these ta-da moments. This is going to be important later. It's like, we're not stupid.
And the movie pretty much was, hey, let's explain why they weren't here when we needed them to be here. And that's literally the movie. Like, why weren't you there? That is the entire movie. Right. Why weren't you there when Thanos was snapping people out of existence?
Everybody. Who cares? What were you doing?
Like, oh wait, spoiler alert. Oh wait, Thanos was actually the hero. He wasn't the villain. Spoiler alert, guys. Let me save you 2.5 hours. That's the whole plot. Him snapping away.
You could have fallen asleep and dreamt a better movie.
The one thing about Marvel movies is that they're cinematography-wise, they're beautiful movies. They're gorgeous movies. So you can sit there and turn your brain off and watch them. You'll have a good time that way. But if you actually sit there and you think about things, you're like, that didn't make sense. Like, that didn't work the way you thought it was going to work.
The other thing is, at the end, okay, it was beautiful, but do I want to see it again? Probably not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a lot of the reason. That's a lot of the way when I was thinking about going back and watching the original, I guess, what is it, 52 movies for the past saga. I don't have any knowledge of going back and seeing besides Winter Soldier and like maybe the Guardians movies and Ant-Man's. Other than that, I have no desire to go back and watch those movies because I don't need to. I know what happened beat for beat. They're popcorn flicks that entertain you for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then you forget about it.
Yeah, they follow the same structure. It's nothing exciting. You know, it's all the same method. And it's just like, okay.
Like, I think the whole wonderland of, oh, I get to see Iron Man on the screen went away by now. You're just like, okay, now entertain me. I wouldn't say entertain me. Tell me a story that I'm going to remember. Tell me something that I'm going to want to go back and watch and I'm going to find something else or I'm going to see something else or see it from this perspective or whatever. Now it's just, if I watch it one time, I don't need to see it again. Like, I'm good.
Yeah. It's just like a big CGI fight isn't a Band-Aid for bad writing. I'm sorry, you know, you can't.
I was just gonna say that.
It's like, you can't just in your third act have a big CGI fight. And see, guys, we're good at this, right?
No.
Like, I'm tired of it. So,
the thing CGI has done is it's made older movies more exciting than they were before. Because there's no CGI. I was watching a movie from the 50s and there was a car chase in San Francisco leading to the San Francisco Bridge. And it was edgier. If I watched it 20 years ago, I'd probably go, oh, yeah, it's a car chase. But now it's like, oh, they're really in the car. Really Somebody could get hurt.
Exactly.
But now it's, oh, yeah, okay, we did a 360 around a car going 120 miles an hour, and that could never happen. So why should I believe anything else I see?
Insert Fast and the Furious franchise, right?
Oh, please don't even go there.
Oh, yeah, boy, they drove that one into the
I don't even know if they're flying cars in space now, man. It's getting crazy.
They did it to the Star Trek movies. They turned them into superhero movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all. Yeah, everything is just, I don't know, like, I'm still holding hope because we got you have like little sparks of certain things, like for instance, the recent Joker movie that just came out. I loved it. It was down to earth. It was a nice little character study. Joaquin Phoenix, of course, is crazy. He did a great job. And I'm excited to see what Robert Pattinson's going to do. There's a couple of good things going on.
Bright spots.
Little nuggets.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the advantage the Joker movie had was it didn't start out as a Joker movie. It was just about a crazy guy.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, what if we made it into a Joker movie? And they said, well, we greenlighted if it was a Joker. So they had the movie first. They had a story first. And then put the character in it. I like to see more of that. I like to see, let's have a good story and then put the character in it. Instead of making it about the character. So
about the identity, the brand or whatever. Like, instead of making the brand, make it about the story.
Yeah. That's why I had no interest in seeing this new Spider-Man movie until I started seeing the trailer. And then I see Alfred Molina. I'm like, okay, now I want to see it.
Right.
Like there's a story here. So how did this happen? Instead of that monstrosity, that last one, like that was unbearable.
That was trash. Oh, the I can't fight. What was it? What was the big thing he was fighting? Oh yeah, drones, right?
Yeah, he was fighting Mysterio, but they were drones. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. None of that worked. As soon as they revealed that, I'm like, nah, that doesn't.
Like that don't work.
Sense. Yeah. Exactly.
That's like somebody came in at the last minute and said, "Oh, let's do this." So we can't change the whole movie to make that work. What do they care?
Just add it in. Let's make things explode in the background. They won't even notice that.
We got their money. They bought their popcorn.
What broke the movie for me was like Peter Parker Spider-Man got hit by a train. and he limped it off. I was like, all right, there ain't no stakes anymore in this. Like he's got it. Like he's got it now. Like when you get hit by a train and you just limp it off, and you expect me to be terrified of Mysterio. You hit it, like he hit you with a train. You walked away. There ain't nothing that man can do for you now. Like, what else can he do? Send you to space, shoot you in the space or whatever? Like, what else can he do? Like,
yeah.
Well, he did pull a gun on him in the last minute.
Right. Yeah. And also, like with that, like one thing I couldn't stand was like they were just like, okay, cue the cheap emotional complexity with the Mysterio, like a psychological warfare. It's like, okay.
Now insert Tony's relevance to this character now. Like I was like, oh, so he's an Iron Man villain now.
And one thing also, Chuck, that we can't understand about this recent Spider-Man in general. Like you said, you're a writer, you know how these characters work. Why is it that they have to make this Spider-Man lean on people? Like he's not a independent character. He's always leaning, even in this movie, he's leaning on other people. Like he's leaning on other villains. There's nobody great enough in his universe to fight, so he has to lean on the past Spider-Man villains to make a movie. It's just like, what is going on?
Exactly.
And let's not mention the fact that there's no mention of Uncle Ben besides like teasers, man. Like, what is that about?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a lack of faith in what went before. When I was a kid reading the comics, I thought, what if there was movies someday and somebody really took this seriously and everything else? Wouldn't that be great if somebody did that? But then as I grow older, I realized not that many people really read comics. So it's not like a best-selling novel that millions of people read. Everybody wants to go see Jaws because they read the novel. So that's probably never going to happen. And then it did. And why it happened isn't because everybody knew who Iron Man was. Most people didn't know who Iron Man was or vaguely knew who Iron Man was. They did it because the source material was so strong, so good, so full of passion and earnestness. And the stories are so good, and the conflicts and characters are so well drawn. And that's what, and their most successful movies are the ones that stayed close to that. You look at the box office for these movies now, and it's cratering. Yeah, they're still making money, but they're not making anywhere near what they were making when they were sticking close to the core material.
For sure.
They're pretty much like breaking even now. From what I see, they're like breaking even. And then they'll be like, oh, we had a great success. I'm like, nah, not by the numbers. You broke even. That's not a success. Like by any means, you should be going above breaking even all the time if you're making money. If it's a successful movie, you should be going above.
You're going to need Disney Plus money.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Now that China's locked them out of the market, these movies just don't make what they used to make.
Yeah, because that's their biggest. That used to be their biggest contributor of money was China, and then now they're like, we'll go over here. Let's do our own thing.
We're going to make our own. You taught us how to make these movies. Now we're going to make them.
Now we're going to make them.
Right.
But it's just like I said, you can see that just what made these movies great and new in the beginning. It's like they got used to it. They're just like, all right, this method works, so let's just change the superhero and do the same story over and over. Change the setting, but the same thing's gonna happen at the end. Like I said, big CGI fight and it's done. Like that's what it is.
If you ever sat in a room with Hollywood producers, you'd understand, because I can't tell you how many times I've argued. Every movie has to end with a big explosion. Every great action film ended with a big explosion. I'm like, that's not really true. Raiders of the Lost Ark ended with a bunch of Nazis melting.
Exactly.
And a crate being put away in a warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loved that movie, but no.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's I was talking to a producer one time, and because I was doing a comic based on a movie treatment. Movie never got made. And I told him, I said, you know what, this movie would make this movie great. I said, right now it's mediocre. If it had a downer ending. And it was weird because it was like 10 years ago and it's about a world pandemic. I said, what if it had a downer ending? The heroes don't succeed. And he said, no money-making movie ever had a downer ending. I'm thinking,
right?
Empire Strikes Back, easy ride.
Come on.
Casablanca. I mean, you go all the way.
Come on.
You know, where the lead character died and everybody loved it, but that's who you're dealing with. And that explains a lot of what the MCU is going through. You got 100 guys like that in a room.
Oh, gosh.
So I feel bad for anybody who has to work on any of those movies.
Yeah, that must be a nightmare.
I just hope one day somebody gets it and it gets better. Because at this point, I'm done. Like I'm good.
I'm watching them, but
I'll watch it when it comes on Disney Plus. So other than that, I'm okay. But definitely, were you about to say something, Josh?
Oh, I was gonna add. No, I'll watch it. I'll do you one better. I'll watch it when it's on FX.
Oh.
See, that's really bad.
Oh no.
That's what's called discretion. It's just
that's true.
I'm not wasting my time until it's free.
Exactly. I'm already paying for the cable. It's coming on my box whether I want it to or not.
Exactly. Hey, so it makes a lot of sense. But definitely, Chuck, it was a pleasure having you on tonight. And the last question before we let you go, I want to ask you, for all of our viewers and listeners out there that aspire to do what you've done in your career, what advice would you give these aspiring writers, whether it be in comics or novels?
Just rely on the two things that every writer needs. I'm going to wait till you're done drinking. Confidence and ignorance. Just don't worry about what you don't know. Just keep doing it and stay confident in yourself. And if you believe in your stories, you believe in what you're writing, even when somebody tells you that they suck, you don't have to believe them. You just go, no, I know this is good. Because I was told I sucked a million times. I was told I would never work in comics. Like guys who are no longer in comics.
See what happened there. Yeah.
Right?
All you need is the desire to tell a story. You don't need. I don't have any education. I didn't go to college. I didn't have any education. I just read a lot of comic books. I read a lot of criticism. I read a lot of anything I could get my hands on. Compulsive reader, and I wanted to tell stories. So I just didn't stop till I did. And that's what you need. That's all you need to do. There's no magic college course you can take or anything else or computer program. It's all what's up here, and you just have to have confidence in yourself. So there you go.
It's a great answer.
Awesome. That is a great answer. So for all of our viewers and listeners out there, you heard it from the man himself. That couldn't have like any better advice. Thank you so much for
Power of ignorance.
Yes. The power of ignorance. Yes. Putting it on a shirt, man. Putting on a shirt. Tomorrow.
Put it on a shirt. So that's the take home, guys. Power of ignorance. Yes. But yeah, guys. So once again, Chuck, thank you so much for coming out. We really appreciated you being a guest, and of course,
I had a lot of fun.
Awesome, we did too.
You're more than welcome to come back anytime.
Yep, anytime.
Definitely. But like we do,
you know what to do? Just email me.
You responded quickly. Thank you for that. I will send you an email.
All right. Cool.
But yeah, guys, like we do every night, guess what time it is?
Shameless promotional.
Shameless promotional.
Hey.
I see you, Marcus. I'm gonna get your recording career, bro. I got you.
I had to come back, work the little vocals of the chord.
The little vocal register,
You're getting better. I'm hearing a little Maxwell in there, man. I see.
Oh, come on now. Don't be telling me that.
But yes, guys, it is time for our shameless promotional. And every week we got the Square Roundtable podcast. You can catch us on our website, squareroundtablepod.fandomlim.com. And one more time, guys, that is squareroundtablepod.fandomlim.com. Go ahead, D.
And you can catch us on YouTube at any time. And if you like the video, smack that like button. Leave us a comment about anything that we talked about in this video about Bane and his portrayal with the Nolan franchise. If you liked it, you didn't like it. Have you checked out the Batman animated series or X-Men animated series or anything related to Batman or his work, or Dixon's work? Or, and if anything else you have to say, I'll be down there. Share the video because that really helps out a lot. Hit the notification bell underneath the video so you get notified of this video and our future videos. And, that pesky face group. Bring life to the Facebook group. And... and join us on Twitter and Instagram. If Twitter or Instagram and Twitter at the Square Round Table 1, I think it is. And yeah, that's my spill.
And not only with that, but check out the Levon Cade and the Bad Time series.
Yes.
There you go.
By Chuck Dixon. And check out Chuck Dixon's channel and check out his series on the channel, Act Chuck Dixon. So
thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, guys, no worries. We will put all of Chuck's information, of course, in the description. But yeah, guys, before we go, I would love everyone, including our amazing guests for the evening, to introduce themselves one more time before we head out. And I'm your host, Chad Singleton.
Josh Singleton, #no.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm your comic book pal, Chuck Dixon.
Hey.
All right. This has been the Score Roundtable Podcast, guys. We are out.
Peace.